have to. Barry. Barry, please.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 8, and this will be my review and breakdown for The Flash Season 8 Episode 16, titled The Curious Case of Bartholomew Allen. And honestly, guys, just giving you guys my quick initial thoughts on this episode before I go more in detail with the breakdown itself. I am speechless when it comes to this episode. It was so beautiful, hands down one of my favorite episodes of this season by far. From everything to the acting, to the emotional beats displayed in this episode, to even the music, just wow. I love this episode a lot. Of course, we did have this episode being directed by Katie Lotz, who played Sarah Lance in Legends of Tomorrow, and she killed it. She was absolutely phenomenal with the shots she went for. Of course, during this episode, we had the overarching theme of Barry getting old due to this shockwave blasting him, and the whole concept of the aging thing, and with them displaying messages with that theme. It was honestly just beautiful. That one scene he had later on in the episode with Cecile, just wow, incredibly well acted, and it was just really well written, and it's very emotional as well, and it was hands down really well acted by both actors. Grant Gustin killed it, and Danielle Nicolette was at her peak during that scene as well, so that really stood out to me. I loved those fun Team Flash family scenes we got during the episode, and I really loved the Joe and Sing storyline as well. And of course, we will talk about Caitlin's villain setup from the end of the episode, because things just got out of hand essentially. Things are going down this really interesting path, which I cannot wait to talk about. But honestly, I don't have any complaints about this episode. It was genuinely just a great episode. I was such a big fan of it. It also felt nostalgic because the episode really had a season 1 vibe to it, and I know Eric Willis did say this prior during interviews. The episodes 16 and 17 will kind of have this season 1 vibe to it. And yeah, in regards to this episode, I couldn't have asked for anything better. It's definitely up there with one of my favorite episodes of The Flash, especially one of my favorite episodes of The Flash Season 8 as well. But yeah, of course, before I get into the episode itself and just break it down and review in general, of course, I will give you guys a quick spoiler warning. So for those who haven't seen the episode yet, go watch the episode and then come back later for this breakdown. But yeah, for those who are staying, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. But yeah, we open up with this really just sweet scene of the Flash going around Central City and just saving innocent lives. It was just really beautiful, really sweet, especially when he saves the old lady and then the old lady thanks the Flash with some candy. I loved that. But yeah, we do then have Barry heading to Joe's house where we have Team Flash playing D&D. And this family feel we got during this episode, it's just great. These are scenes we barely get to see because Team Flash are always focused on, well, Team Flash business. We barely get to see this family dynamic between Team Flash, and I feel this scene with them playing D&D together, it just really well radiates this family feel, with Team Flash just spending this quality time with each other, and I really love that. We barely get to see any of these scenes, and just seeing this was just beautiful. I loved how Joe was just staring at everyone, looking just so confused in regards to what's going on. But also we do have some mystery established as well, with Joe feeling bothered by something, which of course we do find out what it is later on in the episode. But yeah, Barry gets a call from Sing, and I really love the scene as well where they just talk about his secret identity, and then Barry mentions that, oh, well, Captain Kramer knows that I'm the Flash, you didn't have to cover for me, and then Sing gets jealous of that because Kramer's only been here for a short amount of time, yet she figured out already, and then Sing's just like, oh, well, I knew your identity first. So I did really love the interaction between Barry and Sing as well. But yeah, essentially there's this device stolen focusing on gamma rays and all those sorts of stuff, and Sing seeks for Barry's help to essentially find out what's going on over here. And we get this really cool scene where we have Barry just doing a bunch of investigation stuff around his lab. He of course does this in super speed, and seeing those scenes, it was just great as well. But yeah, Barry heads to the location to confront the scientist, and he's suited up as the Flash. And even with this tone established in this scene, we're like, oh wait, let me guess, you're the bad guy. I really love those bits, and as I said before, this episode really felt like a season 1 episode of The Flash, and it's through moments like this in the episode which just really gives you that feel. Of course, you get that like montage at the start of the episode with him going around saving people, having this quality time with Team Flash, and then also having him like crack jokes in between fights like this, which often does bother me, but like with the concept with what they went for over here, it worked and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Barry is distracted, and essentially this results to a shockwave hitting Barry, which of course results to Barry's aging. We do of course have Gideon examining Barry, and she pretty much claims that Barry has aged by 30 years within the body, not outside the body. So like he still looks like Barry Allen, but like in the inside he's aged by 30 years. And we do have him like attempting these ability tests such as phasing, which was of course unsuccessful. He does also do the windmill hands, which was just really funny seeing him do it, because of course he's not able to do it. He's become much slower. So they do really highlight how much weaker the Flash is through these scenes as well, so that was really nice to see. But yeah, we do have Team Flash suggesting to Barry to essentially slow down, but Barry is just continuously being stubborn in this episode, which does of course lead to that really great scene, which I will talk about in a bit. But yeah, Barry is just so determined to find this mad scientist to of course fix everything back up. Cecile does pop in here and again to just check on Barry. She just keeps up going up to Barry. She's like, oh Barry, are you okay? Yeah, they are really sweet moments, but yeah, Barry does essentially just go, oh, I'm fine, there's nothing you need to worry about, until of course he eventually breaks later on in the episode. But we do then have Barry coming across this villain like in the middle of the episode again, and there's another break-in. And yeah, you don't notice it right away, but they do explain later on in the episode that he is essentially able to make himself look younger, and he does even look younger during this interaction. But yeah, we have Barry going after him, and he tries to throw lightning, and this is a scene which really stood out to me in terms of Katie Lotz's directing, where as Barry tries to throw lightning, we have like the camera turning around him. I found that really cool, and that really stood out to me. But yeah, this results to Barry getting knocked out from some techie grenade, which ends up electrocuting Barry. Yeah, this ends up making his aging essentially even worse. Now, there have been a couple of complaints I've seen online saying that, well, Barry could have just moved out of the way. Why did he just stand there doing nothing? But I guess he didn't, so that like the writers themselves could essentially highlight how much weaker Barry has become with this deteriorating body. That's what I could get from it. I'm not entirely sure, but that is my explanation at least. But this of course results to Barry now aging physically. He does have shades of grey hair. Yeah, he has aged by another couple of years as well. And which Chester does mention that if he still continues to grow at that rate, and if he still continues to use his speed, like he could potentially die from it. So there's this risk factor with all of this going around as well, which of course does raise the stakes of the episode, which was something I really liked. But yeah, we do then have Barry finding out the identity of this scientist through security cameras, and he is known as someone called Dr. Orlov, and his intention is to of course get younger through essentially making others look older, if that makes sense. But yeah, we do then have Barry and Cecile going to Corbin Taft Industries to essentially gather some data about Dr. Orlov, and they do of course come across his laptop, in which Barry tries unlocking it, which results to an unidentifiable facial recognition scan, leading into an automatic memory wipe within a set period of time. This of course forces Barry to use his speed, but upon forgetting due to him getting older, they end up in the Great Wall of China, in which it was a really cool scene. It was really well shot with like the camera angles they went for as well. But yeah, this is when Cecile's concerns to Barry just essentially starts to peak. She's really beginning to become concerned about Barry, and she gets more concerned because of course Barry's not opening up. He's still being stubborn. But yeah, we do have Barry being able to give the laptop to Chester on time, where Chester is able to stop the countdown. However, he was not able to access all the files just yet. And we do have Barry continuing to be like, he's continuing to be stubborn. He's like, okay, I'll use my speed, I'll do this, that, and that. And Team Flash are like telling Barry to like, okay, just slow down, we can handle it if it's necessary. Of course, Barry's like, no, I'm not letting that happen. So of course, like Team Flash care about Barry. They don't want him to die or anything like that. So they're trying to essentially take the most logical option, which is to keep the Flash as safe as possible. Whereas Barry, on the other hand, he's just like, no, I'm just gonna do this. He's like, he's not essentially thinking clearly due to all these stresses building up onto him, and it does lead to such an amazing scene, which I'm about to get into. But yeah, Barry then tries to access the Starchives. However, he forgot the way due to his Alzheimer's kicking in. And this is when we have Cecile becoming way too overly concerned. And she eventually pulls Barry aside to have this conversation with him and what's really happening. And this scene, oh my god. This scene was a chef's kiss. It was incredibly beautiful. Both actors were very, very well acted, and the scene was just perfect. We had Barry talking about these growing struggles he's having with becoming an old man, and how he just realizes that like his time is so limited when he felt like he had a lot of time before. He does also talk to Cecile about his struggles with him not being able to remember important people in his lives, such as like Iris, for example. And he was just upset with the fact that he might not even see Iris before she comes back. And those scenes, or just those lines in general, it hit so hard. The emotional beats in this episode worked really, really well. And the acting with those both actors, it just really just took this scene to another level. And it was just amazing. Further complementing these emotional beats, we also had this perfect segue between Joe and Singh, where we of course have Joe and Singh going to Jitters, and eventually Singh gives this absolutely amazing pep talk to Joe about what's next, because of course Joe is now a retired man. He doesn't, feel himself useful anymore. And Singh talks to him about like how he's this great man that's raised the Flash of all people, and like how he just continues to do great things. And once again, like that scene between Singh and Joe was amazing as well. I really liked how they were able to fit Singh into all of this, and it was perfectly fitting. I really, really liked it. But we do then have Chester being able to access Orlov's files, and Team Flash eventually find out what exactly he is planning, which is to literally age everyone up and make himself look younger and essentially become immortal by that. So we do have some really high stakes going on, where this could essentially lead to all of Central City essentially just deteriorating, becoming really, really old and eventually dying. And Orlov, as a result to this, becomes younger and immortal. This is of course such a big threat. So Barry is determined to use his speed to overload this weapon so he's able to essentially stop everything happening. So Barry is willing to sacrifice himself to save all of those lives, and this is when the pep talk from Cecile really kicks in. I did really like the run Barry run from Cecile as well. But we do see Barry eventually circulating around this device, which went off. And as Barry runs, we do see Barry slowly getting older and older. Like he starts to decay up, he starts getting into cardiac arrest and all of that. It looked visually sick. It was really, really cool. And yeah, Barry is essentially able to overload it so much so that he ends up saving the day. But the twist is, well, it's not really a twist, it's just more of like the catch to like the fallout of this device essentially being stopped. Barry gets younger and Orlov gets older instead. Now we do then have Chester mentioning that not only has Barry de-aged back to his younger self, but also he's able to internally feel like he's 29 years old, which of course is really, really cool as well. But we do have some more fun times with Team Flash playing D&D together, and we have this key scene between Singh and Allegra where Singh asks for Allegra's codename, which of course she doesn't have one. So I think this is going to segue into the events of episode 17, where she eventually comes up with a codename. Maybe it's going to be like Ultraviolet 2.0 or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what's going to happen with Allegra in next week's episode, which of course is an episode centered around Allegra, although we will be having like the Flash and the Reverse Flash in that episode as well, which will be really, really cool to see. We did have Joe's cosplay as Gandalf, and I just really love these moments in this episode. But yeah, here are where things get insane. Barry gets a call from Caitlin's mother checking if Caitlin is there, which of course she isn't, because Barry thought that she was with her. So Barry heads over to her apartment and he hears a lot of noises and he begins to get concerned in regards to what's going on over here. So yeah, he phases through her apartment, only to see her house turned into a lab. It was quite damn creepy, but yeah, Barry is shocked with what Caitlyn's trying to do, in which we do see Caitlyn's darker side, if you will, where she's just like, oh, I know I can do this, we can bring Frost back. Really getting those evil scientist vibes. It really gets me those Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness vibes with Wanda, where she's just so determined to do this one thing, she eventually goes crazy from it. And that's what I think is happening to Caitlyn over here. But yeah, Barry is just shocked and creeped out with what Caitlyn's trying to do. And of course, that's the idea of bringing Frost back by shooting herself with the mirror gun once again and using that little fragment of Frost within her to bring Frost back. But she does then begin to push Barry over the edge by saying, oh, you would have done the same if it was for your mother or something. And Barry eventually loses it. He tries to get through to Caitlyn to try and accept Frost's death, but he was unsuccessful in doing so. And this leads to Barry electrocuting up. And Caitlyn's like, oh, Barry, please don't do this. She's begging Barry not to do this. And Barry literally destroys everything in the room with this lightning blast. And Caitlyn is incredibly heartbroken by this. What a betrayal. She is going to see this as such a huge betrayal, which of course she's going to be absolutely furious about this. And Barry, of course, he did the right thing. But you can tell that he felt so bad doing it from Grant's facial expressions, so I did really like that as well. But yeah, this in my opinion is definitely setting up Caitlyn's villain arc going forward. This is when she pretty much just cuts off Team Flash. She's like, okay, no, I can't believe Barry did this to me. That's it. I'm not part of Team Flash anymore. It's probably going to happen something like that. She's going to cut ties with Barry and everyone else. And then eventually she's going to properly become Killer Frost herself. That's what I think is going to happen. And yeah, things are going to be really, really interesting. And I'm really intrigued to see where the storyline with Caitlyn is taking us, because it is really, really damn interesting. And yeah, I just cannot wait to see more of this happening. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below if you guys liked this episode. I'm interested to see all of your thoughts towards all of this as well. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.